Hello, everybody. Russell Hill, your host of WTF, and that is What the FixedOPS. This is not all about just fixed operations. This is about life and liberty and variable and the human journey. I'm also joined today by...
I'm Charity Dunning. I'm the co-host here at What the FixedOPS, and we're really excited. We have Sandy Cerami here with us today. He's a lifelong entrepreneur, and he's passionate about cars and people. So Sandy, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, Charity, you're going to make me lead off with the thing that I'm least comfortable spending time talking about. Thank you so much.
That's charity, Sandy.
Yeah. It is. I don't feel very charitable right now. I have to talk about myself, which I'm not always comfortable doing, but I'm quite honestly a little shot that keeps on shooting in this business. I was born into the car business. My grandfather actually founded a Pontiac dealership back in 1957. And I had the great fortune of growing up in and around the dealership environment. It was something that I knew I wanted to do at a very young age. And when I say I'm passionate about cars and people, I'm passionate about the way people react to and become so passionate themselves about cars. I don't know a damn thing on the mechanical side. The people end of the business is what I truly enjoy. And I've spent the last this is my 37th year in the business full time. I can't even believe I'm saying that to you. It makes me feel like I'm a million years old. But 36 years passed in the blink of an eye. And I love everything about the business, but the thing that I love most, as I said, is the people end of it. It's been my high honor to meet some of the most incredible people over the course of my career.
It's an amazing, I also, we're probably about the same age. I started selling 1985. And, even though I have a technology company that caters to fixed operations, I'm actually a variable guy. Go figure. 85% of everybody is, but it's been an amazing ride. And Charity and I, and this is what we like to do, we're going to talk about a lot of different things because a lot of people that we know you, and then we have a really large audience. Like I mentioned earlier before we start recording, Charity's done a phenomenal job. One, just the name itself. People go, what? What the fick? Yeah, right. It's real catchy, and we kind of figured out how we go with this. But like at NADA that we just left, we had the opportunity. We were humbled and blessed to be able to have a few workshops, and they were on EV and the future of fixed operations. Mm-hmm. And it's really amazing because we took people on a journey, which is what we want to do today with you. So other people can get to know you that don't or know a little bit about you, but it all boils down to one thing. And that's how we ended up at the end of our workshop. Everything else is hyperbole. You can talk about this, and that. It's all about your people. If you're not pouring into your people and they don't know that they count, they matter, they make a difference, and they're a part of something. I mean, that's really ultimately so if you don't fix that one thing, all that other crap doesn't make any difference. So what do you think about that kind of stuff, Sandy?
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I just spent the last 3 days with Arnold Gasita and his team at Petro Automotive Products. And we were hyper-focused on the people aspect of the business. I think it's what everything that we derive in terms of profitability and performance in our business emanates from the people that serve in our organizations. And there's no getting away from that. I tell you right now, you take a look at the level of talent that you have in any organization, and I'll be able to point to a number on their bottom line, and there'll be a direct correlation to the level of talent and the level of profitability in a store. And when we talk about the fact, I just did a presentation yesterday for Arnold Gasita's distributors, and I opened it up and I said, who here has ever said, I just can't find good people anymore? And everybody shot their hand up in the air. And
sure.
I said, you're not looking in the right places, and you're not looking every day the way that you should. And I work with clients on a regular basis on that principle alone, which is we should always be at high noon looking for top talent and great people to join this business, because it has provided such an amazing career arc for so many folks with a really low barrier of entry, and has made millionaires out of people that came in either dead broke or just getting started in their career,
Yep.
because of the fact that they committed to the business.
It's really amazing. And I want to talk about the Pontiac store just a second. And I always like saying this. So many years ago, I know you might find this hard to believe in automotive space, but I had quite a challenge with substance abuse and alcohol, which I'm sure nobody really knows much about in automotive. And when I straightened my life out a little over 28 years ago, I met a coach, spiritual advice, whatever you want, life coach, whatever you want to call him. And he really stirred something in me because I was really ready at that point in time, but I had a huge problem with low self-esteem, et cetera. And he said, Russell, are you willing to do the things that other people are not willing to do so that you can have and become the things that most people will never have and never become? And what are you willing to do? And really my whole journey has been about people anyway. And so in this Pontiac store that you had, there were some trials and tribulations that occurred, and something happened to the dealership, and something happened with you and your wife. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, something happened. I mean, a little thing called the, let me digress for just a second. We talked about over the course of the last couple of days, in a number of different conversations I had, people were saying, well, never, never, never. I said, never's an awful long time. And every time I hear something's never going to happen, I just wait for it to happen. And I had heard, throughout my career, things like, GM will never fail. GM will never go bankrupt. Well, in 2008, in 2009, we found that to be a fallacy, right? What we found out is that they weren't too big to fail, and they were bailed out, I guess, in a lot of ways, thankfully, because it salvaged the GM business in and of itself. I think there were a lot of things about it that I would have done differently, in hindsight. But as it impacted me and my family, we were in a position where, excuse me, we had already made a decision to sell our franchises back to General Motors, because at that point in time, if you recall, General Motors had gone through about a 5-year run where we were just continually seeing diminished sales, diminished profitability. Certainly in my franchise with Pontiac, we had GMC as well, which was fairly steady and a bit stronger than Pontiac, but it was a real struggle. At a significant rent factor at the store that we were at. It was a major highway in suburban New Jersey. It's the Paramus, New Jersey, number 2 or 3 retail zip code in the country. So high priced real estate. And, we had a deal with General Motors to buy the shingles back from us. We shut the doors December 1st. They went BK in February of 2009, and the rest is history. We ended up, literally upside down. I walked the earth like Kane from Kung Fu. The younger folks in the audience are not going to know who that is.
What a great show, man. Yeah.
Great show, right?
Yeah.
David Carradine?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I walked the earth like having experiences for about 5 months talking to myself. I was literally overdrawn in every single account that I had. Our house was in foreclosure. It was just a really difficult time. And it was kind of a WTF moment, to be completely honest with you, because we had no idea WTF happened. Okay. Yeah. And it gave me an opportunity, quite honestly, to reassess where I was and what I wanted to do with my life. And I knew when I walked in the back door of my house in May of 2009, literally in tears. I mean, I'm not ashamed to share this story because it's true, and it demonstrates the really human element of the impact of what that economy was like back then. I walked in the back door of my house with tears streaming down my cheeks because I was broke, and I was broken as a person. And I married the right woman. My wife, Mary, is the most incredible person in the world. I thank God for her every day. And she looked me in the eye and said, "What's wrong?" And I hadn't told her that we were in foreclosure on the house. I didn't know how to tell her because I had 2 little babies in the house at that point. And I told her, and she said, "Well, you got to figure it out because you're a smart guy. You're just walking around in kind of paralysis mode. Go figure it out." And she literally kicked my rear end out the door. She said, "I believe in you." And I had not heard those 4 words inside the 6-inch space in between my ears in a long damn time. And I literally went and wrote the business plan for the business that I have today at a Starbucks. in town, and it changed everything. It was both the best and worst thing that ever could have happened to me in my life, professionally and personally. And so we took that opportunity to just spin it on a dime and create a business out of thin air. And again, I thank God every single day that I get the chance to do this.
We are passionate about helping consumers find a great, trusted place to get their car fixed. We have 4 million uniques who come to our website each month for car repair information, and we help them find our REPAIRPAL certified locations. We also have amazing partners like USAA that offer our REPAIRPAL certified network to their customers and members. So how are we going to help dealers? Well, dealers sell 100% of the cars, but over time, after the warranty expires, the repairs go up and the revenue potential goes up, but people keep leaving the dealer over time after the warranty. By years 10 or 12, only about 20% of people are still servicing at the dealer. Why is that? There's one dominant reason, and that is price perception. And being REPAIRPAL certified helps you overcome the primary price perception problem. So come let us show you how REPAIRPAL can help you too.
Yeah, that's an incredible wife that that level of support. That 5 months, I'm sure there was a lot of emotional upheavals up and down. And, I think all of us have, defining moments like that. I did. Actually, there's 2 important dates in my life, the day I was born and the day I figured out why and what I was supposed to do.
Amen.
And that was
Yes.
December 1st, 1994. It was the worst day of my life, but it was actually the best day of my life.
Yep.
It just exploded after that, when I really figured out that I just need to get out of my own way and learn how to think differently.
Mhm.
So Mary, your wife, 2 children,
Yeah.
how old are they now?
I've got a 21-year-old son, Patrick, who was a junior in business school up in Rhode Island. And I have a 18-year-old, about to be 19-year-old daughter, who is a journalism major at Bucknell.
Wow. Proud dad, proud mom and dad there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this business plan,
I have to be honest with you guys, I'm having their DNA checked just to make sure that they came from me, because I was not a great college student. They both are.
well,
So I give Mary credit on that one.
yeah, I mean, you may have not been a great college student, but you think outside the box. So you put together this plan. What did you do next after you wrote this out? How did you get going with this plan that you had? And obviously you had to pivot a little bit, as things come up. But
Yeah.
what inspired that moment?
My wife. Quite honestly, when my wife said those 4 words to me, it was like magic. It really took me back, to be honest with you. As I drove out of my driveway, I didn't know where the hell I was going. I just knew I needed to go find a spot that I could sit down. And the truth is, at that moment in time, I had $11 in my pocket. And that was all the money I had in the world. I was overdrawn in all 3 of my accounts, 2 business accounts and a personal account. I had change in the little change drawer of my 2004 Cadillac CTS with 66,000 miles on it. And I said, I got $11. I can get a cup of coffee. I had a yellow legal pad next to me. I went and sat in Starbucks, ordered I don't know what they call it, but it's the largest coffee they make.
Venti.
A venti, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And I sat down, I wrote 328 names on a yellow legal pad of people that I knew I could pick up the phone and call, not to ask them for anything other than either insight, perspective, advice, or input for what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do at that point in time, quite honestly, was focus on, I knew the economy was in absolute shambles, right? So we had just seen Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers literally go up in a puff of smoke, right?
Yep.
2 other companies that people said they'll never fold. They were gone, right, in a puff of smoke. And I knew that Wall Street was going through a bit of a crisis. And I knew there was going to be a lot of talent available. I knew that the automobile business was going to be looking for quality people, even though we had really ground to a halt in terms of sales. I knew they were going to be looking for talent in fairly short order. And so I concocted a business plan that basically was designed to train people that had no experience in selling and teach them how to sell automobiles, and then get paid to place them in those positions in dealerships. So I would earn on both sides of that equation, sharing my experience and expertise. And before long, it turned into more of a consulting practice because I would go into stores and I would get questions like, hey, what are your thoughts on how to handle an issue in the service drive? What are your thoughts on how to handle something in the F&I department? And so before long, it became a full-blown consulting business for me. And I did far fewer training and placement gigs than I did full-blown consulting engagements with clients. It was just a really interesting turn over the course of about 18 months. But we haven't looked back. It's been really magical. I think about it all the time, and I say it's serendipitous in a lot of ways because certain people kind of re-entered my life throughout the course of that path that I was on. At times I never would have expected it, and that's why I believe in divine, the divine maker up top.
I believe that too.
He puts people in your path, and I thank God for it every day.
Yeah. Now I've known about you. I've seen a lot of different things about you. We know a lot of the same people, but never had any interaction. Well, it works out the way it's supposed to work out. So, John Traver at the VIP thing is when I met you actually for the first time, and
That's
you
correct.
came up, and that was you're just a class act. And
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of easy hanging around with John. John rubs off on people in such a great way.
yeah.
One of my heroes in life, not just in business. John Traver is a hero to me in life. And he was the magnet for the two of us. He brought us together.
Yeah, you just walked up to the table. Before that, we were talking, and I met him in 1996 when I went through Traver Boot Camp in Houston. And that set a different course for me. I just gotten clean and sober a couple of years before that, but I was hungry. I was back in the car business again, and it was amazing the things that I learned through that week-long boot camp. And I haven't seen her. I mean, I know of him, and I see him on all different kinds of shows, but hadn't run into him again since then until that night. Lori Halter actually invited Cherry and I and my wife.
Oh, superstar.
Yeah. Oh, she's just an amazing, just pours into people. She's a people person.
Yep.
Cherry, do you have a question? Excuse me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, I read right next to you for people who are just listening, SCA 365 Academy, 7 Pillars, recruiting, business, bourbon and cigars. Tell us about what all those things are.
Yeah.
They are all ideas that we turned into opportunities to share expertise, experience, to do business, quite honestly. The SCA Academy, we are just in the process of launching right now, and it's going to be the umbrella for all of the courses that we're developing right now for both virtual and on-site training opportunities for the clients that we're working with. And the 7 Pillars is really the focus for us right now. It's something that I have crafted over the course of my career. It's something more than just selling, because I think that if we focus just on the selling piece of it, it sounds and feels way too transactional.
Yeah.
The 7 Pillars aspect of it incorporates, creating high value differentiation, branding, really learning how to connect with people on a more visceral, meaningful level, so that you can create more repeat and referral business. The idea is ultimately to create such a high level of value in the relationships that you have with the people that you do business with, that you're the only logical choice for them to call when they don't know who to call or what to do. It's when we want our phone to ring and our email or our instant messenger inbox to ding. And
Right.
The whole focus is to make sure that you become the resource, the most trusted resource in the marketplace for the people that you serve. The SCA 365 recruiting is really the evolution of the original business plan that we set forth. And all we did was expand the scope, Charity, to include every position in a dealership or every position in a B2B automotive or OEM environment. And so we do recruiting for organizations, that are single point rooftop dealers, all the way up to, large B2B vendors in the automotive space as well. So business, bourbon and cigars,
I love that title, man. I really do.
Well, I can't take credit for the title. Scott Joseph, my partner, gets credit for the title. It was originally called The Fourth Box, and I'll tell you why, and how it started, because it's relevant to the conversation. You know, when the COVID lockdown first hit in March of 2020, you know, I retroactively took back all the invoices that had gone out March 1st because I knew dealers were not
Oh yeah.
have any revenue coming in, and I couldn't in good conscience take money from them when their businesses had been ground to a halt. We had a couple pieces of residual income that were coming in that were going to, you know, keep us okay for a few months. And in April, I said to Scott Joseph, you know, I'm getting phone calls because I told every one of my clients, even though we're not invoicing you, you still have the same level of access. So you pick up the phone or call me, you know, shoot me a text, whatever the case may be. If you've got an issue, call me. I want to stay connected with you throughout this because nobody knows what the hell is going to happen.
No.
And in April, I said, Scott, you know, I have a lot of questions. I would write down questions that I was getting asked. And I had literally 3 sheets of questions. I said, we need to brainstorm this thing. So let's grab a bourbon and a cigar on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. The two of us literally spent almost 3 hours on a Zoom. I will tell you that the ideas had a lot more clarity the first 2 hours than they did the last hour.
Oh, okay.
Things happened.
Right.
But what we did figure out is that we came up with a couple of really, I think, creative solutions and ways to address the challenges that we had in the marketplace early on in the lockdown. I said, we got to do this again next week. So we did it for 3 straight weeks in a row. We invited Jamil, his president and chief operating officer at J&O Marketing, who's a genius, by the way. Conversations got even smarter with him involved.
Yeah.
And then the next week we did it. I said, we got 3 boxes just like we have here on the Zoom. I said, we need a 4th box. We should be inviting dealers and managers in the business. Let's get some ideas and input from them as well. So we started out with the 4th box, and for about 14 straight weeks, we had somebody in the 4th box, and we would just brainstorm. We'd get to know them. We'd ask about what the challenges were they were going through, what solutions they had developed. We shared with them solutions that other guests on the Zoom meeting had as well. And in August of 2020, I said, you know, I'm itching to get out. I cannot do this basement thing anymore. It might be good for Joe Biden. It doesn't work for Sandy Cerami.
That's right, man. All right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to get back to life. And so I said, what do you think about doing something live? And he said, let's do it. October, we'll put it together. We literally put it together on the quick. Dave Boyle, CEO over at Traction, one of our
Great guy, man.
Awesome guy.
Yeah.
I just spent the last 3 days with him. I'll be with them all next week. He was one of our inaugural sponsors. He was there at the very beginning. And we had, I think it was 14 or 15 people at the first event, which was October of 2020. We called it the 4th Box Live because we'd invited a lot of folks that had already been on. And we started this mastermind process where we were solving challenges and leveraging opportunities at the same time by soliciting a lot of input and feedback and ideas from that collective group. And it was so fruitful and so beneficial for each one of us for a number of different reasons, because everybody was anxious to get out. We had people like Adam was there, Brad Mugg.
Brad Mugg, huh?
Brad Mugg. I was with Brad.
That guy. I just sent him an email a little while ago. I met him when he was at Cerritos, and now he's
sure. Yeah, Norm Reeves.
Yeah, great guy.
I was with them the last 3 days. He and his wife Jill, just awesome people. So much fun to be around, and we just had this. Michael Porro was there. Louisville Honda. We had a whole host of people that were really committed. Adam Aarons, I think I mentioned him, but the point is that we realized that there was something there. People wanted to do it again. And so we've had now, this will be our 5th one this coming week in San Antonio. The 6th one will be in Louisville in September. And then we're going to be out in Arizona for number 7 next year in March or April. And it's been an incredible way to develop a community of people that really do care about each other, that have a passion for this business. And as you said before, Russell, think outside the box. And it's just been amazing. Lori Halter has been involved, who I think is just a superstar inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
She's really been a difference maker. I got to be honest with you. She was like adding. It was like if you were drinking the same drink for the last 20 years, and all of a sudden you added the most spectacular garnish to the drink, and it just changed everything. Created this burst of additional flavor to what we do and how we do it. And she does a great job of keeping Scott and I in line, because she takes no crap. from anybody.
No,
Which is
she really doesn't. Recently, when we were in ADA, we heard what happened while she was there. And of course, she published something on LinkedIn about it without mentioning names. It was horrible. I remember March 3 years ago, right? I mean, Zoom was the thing. There used to be other programs, that all of a sudden everything is Zoom. And it's changed everything. We are a resilient bunch of men and women.
Amen.
In this business. It's the greatest business that there is in the world. It's also one of the smallest too.
Yeah.
It's amazing the people that know the people. I also, like you, when people say never, ever, and always, or if I coulda, shoulda, woulda, it's like it throws up a red flag. I will never do that again. Why would you say that? We're human. We all fall short. I mean, how could you possibly say that? It's always this way. No, it's not always that way. Anyway.
No absolutes, right? I mean, that's a big life lesson for a lot of us, is that we realize there are no absolutes.
The only one that I know of is change. It's sure. Right. And I have found in life, I have failed a whole lot. I have an acronym for that. Everybody's probably heard it. First attempt in learning.
Yes.
And I fail my way and just keep getting better and better and better. And, I have a story like everybody else has a story. It's really remarkable what happened and the resiliency that I have seen, and you've seen, all of us have seen in the people in this business, and not just out for themselves. It's about lifting other people up and helping them out, and the exchange of ideas. And then you have business, bourbon, and cigars. It's not a big thing on purpose. It's a smaller knit thing. How do people participate and hear more about business, bourbon, and cigars?
Well, I mean, you always go to the website. It's businessbourboncigarsfordealers.com. You can go right to the J&L website, and it's under events on the J&L website as well. It's an amazing community. I'm so anxious to get down there. My wife finally made it out in September for her first event, fell in love with the people. She's coming with me again this week coming up. We're empty nesters at this point because both kids are in college. I've got to worry about the Labrador, but we've got the Labrador taken care of, so we can now travel. But it's a community of people that really do care about each other and want to see each other succeed. And the number of deals that have been struck, this is really interesting. The number of deals that have been struck and strategic partnerships that have been struck from our sponsored partners with our dealer members, dealer member to dealer member, sponsor partner to sponsor partner. I mean, VinQ and CarNow, two really dynamic companies with dynamic leadership. Just announced a strategic partnership that happened as a result of getting together through business, bourbon, and cigars. Not that we take any credit for it, but the point is, it's that type of a community. Danny and Tim, two special people, two people that get it at a level that not everybody does in any business, but specifically in our business. And so if people want to know more, they can always shoot me a phone call or a text message or an email. I'm always happy to engage. I'm always looking to meet other folks because I never know who I'm going to meet and what I'm going to learn as a result.
Oh, so true. I've heard a lot about VinQ recently. I start out every morning very early with Glenn Lundy. Just an amazing guy. We just had him on, I think last week or something. It's not even going to be released till April 3rd. That's how backed up we are. But just an amazing guy. And VinQ does some stuff with his 800% Elite, which I thought was pretty neat. And then Scott Joseph is CarNow. He's in the modern day car sales too. I'm also in that room on Clubhouse.
Yes, Scott's in there.
Yeah, so you're familiar with all those things.
Oh, sure.
So this is kind of it's not a full blown, this is a very, very special networking type of thing. Can anybody go to that? I know that some people are probably asked that, and I'm sure that's not the case, but what are the guidelines for that?
Yeah, great. I'm glad you asked the question because it's something we always try to clarify. Is like the idea is to keep it smaller and more intimate, right? Because we want those relationships to be genuine, to be authentic, for people not to get overwhelmed. NADA, and by the way, this year at NADA, I thought was one of the best shows in a long time. I was disappointed for a few years leading up to 2020, quite honestly, right before the lockdown. I just felt that it had lacked the enthusiasm and the passion for a couple of years. This year, I think people came with a really healthy mission, which was to get some stuff done.
I agree. We had a lot of exposure there. It was great that we also were able to do workshops, but and Dallas of all places, a lot of people going, Dallas, why Dallas? It was an amazing event.
Yeah.
It was electrifying, I thought. A lot of people came together, a lot of connections were made. And I know the next one's back in Vegas, which isn't a bad venue either, but
right. I know, but Vegas, right? It's just like roll your eyes, it's Vegas. I agree with you. I think it was a really highly enthusiastic crowd at NADA this year. And the point I was trying to make was just to juxtapose the size and scope of NADA is NADA. We're not looking for that. We're not looking for 200, 300, 400 people. There's other events out there that will provide that type of an experience. What we really want is something that's going to help people create really, as I said, genuine relationships with other folks who they appreciate and can lean on. It's the time in between each of these events, which is where all the magic happens.
Sure.
Because people are interacting and engaging with each other in a way that helps them, improve their businesses and improve their lives.
Is it just dealers and dealer principals, general managers?
Dealer principals, general managers, fixed operations directors, e-com directors, service directors. We're looking for folks that are at a level that they can actually make decisions and impact the business effectively.
Sure.
And I don't mean it to sound elitist, but those are the folks that are charged with the responsibility and have the authority and latitude to make decisions to improve their businesses. And so that's who we want in there. We want to keep the level of conversation, peaked ultimately. But, from a vendor perspective, right. And I hate that word. We use the word sponsored partner.
There you go. I like that. It's a lot more palatable.
Well, it's not, but I think it speaks more to what we're looking for, right? We don't want people that are coming in there to just looking to sell. As a matter of fact, we've got a no pitch policy.
Those things turn me off.
Nobody gets to come in and pitch at all. As a matter of fact, we just did it last week. I hosted the sponsor partner prep Zoom for our newer sponsor partners. And I said, just, to clarify, like, please do not come in there pitching, because here's what's happening. The culture of the community will spit you out like poison, because they're not going to want you there. And we listen to our dealer members. If somebody is too overt and too high pressure, which thankfully has not been the case, we'll hear about it and we'll have a conversation. And if the response is the right one, then, everybody gets a second chance in life, sometimes a third.
No, I hear you. I'm a vendor, but I don't even like that. I'd much rather cultivate a relationship. And if it comes up and there's a time and appropriate place, which is not there, it's about networking, building relationships. You have some phenomenal speakers. I know Ed Roberts goes, an inaugural
member. There's one of the sharpest fixed operations, if not the sharpest fixed operations mind I've ever met. A bona fide leader, I couldn't say enough good things about Ed Roberts. He's a guy that I really idolize. And I aspire to be as genuine a leader as Ed Roberts is every single day. That dude is the real damn deal.
Yeah. Have you been to the Bozard?
Oh yeah, Bozard, absolutely.
Man,
Dave Boyle and I went down and visited, and you've been there, obviously, Russell, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, just an amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. When you talk about culture, there's another store out there that I think has a similar culture, and that's Patrick Abad over at Beaver, Cummins, Georgia. They've got a really incredible culture. I've yet to visit this store, but I have heard enough from so many people about, the culture they have in their organization. It reminds me a lot of Bozard. You walk through Bozard, you could cut that culture with a knife. It's that thick, that good.
Yep. Yeah. And Patrick Abad, same thing. I know, as a matter of fact, listening to Glenn this morning, he's in Patrick's store right now. And he's like, in 3 years, he's up like 450%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy it's all about his people. Yeah. Every time he just pours into and elevates his people, and you want to be a part of that team. People say, well, no, look, there was recent, Tom Brady, an interview. I haven't seen it. I just heard about it a few weeks ago at the 10X in Vegas, and with Grant and, Glenn, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about winning. And he said, he doesn't, everybody just was taken back by it. He said, I don't focus on winning. Well, then, I mean, 7 Super Bowl rings, yada, yada. He
Yep.
said, I focus on giving it my best and the effort, because that's all, Sandy, we're really responsible.
we can
If we show
control.
up, give it our best, we're responsible for the effort, but we're not responsible for the results. That's God thing. Okay. We are, when we try to control those things, we create all kinds of havoc. Do you agree?
I agree 1,000%. Control what you can really control. And things like your attitude, your
Yep.
work ethic, right? How you treat other folks are things that are all within the dominion of your control. You know, I mentioned to you before, I said that my path has been so serendipitous over the last, 10, 12 years, a lot of good fortune, a lot of things that just fell into place at the right time, and certainly plenty of things that didn't. But
Sure.
on either side of that equation, I had very little control over the circumstances. What I could control was getting up every single day, going to work, working hard, focusing on what was going to help my clients. And I have this firm fundamental principle, which is my role is to always gather and share all the information I can with my clients so that they can make the best decisions possible for
Wow.
them and their businesses, right? It has very
Yep.
little to do with me. It has everything to do with them. And it's really an offshoot of the old Zig Ziglar. If you help enough people get what they want, you get everything.
You took that right out of my mouth.
Yeah. Well, and you know it, right? Like should be C at the top should be a required reading. As
Yeah,
should
I agree.
be Born to Win and How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there's this whole host of books. So it's a commitment I made years ago when I read a quote by Jim Rohn. He said, "I never measure a person's wealth by their bank account. I measure it by the size of their library." And I was like, wow, that spoke to me.
That's amazing. I with that mentor I was telling you about, he said he was multi-millionaire, and I'm the one that tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, I'd like to take you to lunch and tap on you and ask you. I was really hungry. And one of the first things he did, other than say something like that, is he handed me a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he said, listen, here's what I want you to do, Russell. I don't want you to read 14 minutes. I don't want you to read 16 minutes. I want you to read 15 minutes a day. And I said, I can do that. He said, no. I'm talking, I don't care where you're at 15 minutes, you stop. And if you'll do that, that'll be the start of a transformation that you won't even recognize in 1 year. It wasn't even a year. It was 6 months. Then it was Napoleon Hill. I mean, I just kept Jim Rohn, just kept going on and on and on. And it revolutionized my son. Also, it led me to lead a devotional. I got invited at Zig's office in Dallas, because I live in Dallas, to do a devotional with him a couple of years before he passed away. That was just a really phenomenal moment.
That's magic. I mean, what a gift.
Yeah. And my son, he said, which I know this is part of your story too. He said, Dad, how do you make decisions? How do you know if you're making the right decision? I said, well, it's pretty easy. He said, you always seem to be making the right decisions. I said, well, that's not true, but thank you. He said, no, really. And I said, it's really pretty simple, Ryan, because it's my son's name. I said, if all decisions we make revolve around people, okay, it just does. When you're making decisions at the expense of other people and you win, it's usually the wrong decisions. When other people benefit and you benefit, it's usually the right decision. If you just keep that simple fundamental idea and practice that, you'll be infinitely successful beyond your dreams.
Yeah.
You agree?
Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think we have a lot of the same mentors, and I joke around with my wife all the time. I said I was born like 30 years too late. I always wish that I could really have come up in the world at a time when people like Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn were around. And I'll tell you a quick funny thing. Like I'm somebody that disappears down the rabbit hole pretty often. Like if I get locked in on somebody whose thought processes and philosophies are something that I'm attracted to, I'll really go to the next layer, because I want to know, how did they get that mindset? How did they develop that philosophy in their life? And there's usually someone that mentored them. And so you go down this tree of mentors. And so one of the guys that got my attention was a guy by the name of J. Earl Shoaff. And J. Earl Shoaff was known as the millionaire maker back in the 30s and the 40s. And he was the mentor to Zig Ziglar.
I did not know that.
Yes, sir. Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, and Mary Kay Ash, who is the Cadillac Mary Kay Cosmetics. And she, quite honestly, they were involved in a business where I think they were selling cutlery and kitchenware. and she was about to quit. And I think it was Zig Ziglar was the one that kind of convinced her, stick around, we need you here. And she did, and she turned herself into a wild success, and then started her own cosmetics business. I've got her book sitting over here in my library, because that's the point I'm making, is I keep going further and further down that rabbit hole, and I find incredible sources of inspiration in places that I never would have guessed in a million billion years.
Mm-hmm. People sometimes ask me, and I still read. As a matter of fact, and this is one that I got like 3 or 4, but I'll tell you one. I don't know if you know about. Have you ever heard of the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz? Oh, phenomenal book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through all the scrolls again on the greatest sale. I mean, it should be a prerequisite for everybody,
Absolutely.
And not just for sales, just life, man. I mean, it's
Russell, you make such a great point. It's again, I'm going to go back and tell you, like I'm going to coin a phrase my dad used to say. I quit school because they had recess. Okay, like they weren't taking it seriously enough for me. That always like made that joke, but I was a terrible student in high school. I don't think I opened a book other than oh my god, Of Mice and Men. For some reason, I read that book. It always appealed to me. I read that book 3 or 4 times, and I use the reference with Lenny Squeeze the Mouse all the time with business owners and entrepreneurs that are squeezing their business to death. Ultimately, I use that analogy for them. But the point I'm making is that I discovered reading through a friend of mine by the name of Joe Barricata, who was a lifelong mailman, all right, U.S. postal carrier, who turned himself into an entrepreneur by reading. And he introduced me to Jim Rohn. He introduced me to incredible books, and put me on a path where I found and discovered the joy of reading and learning and self-education. Again, the Jim Rohn line, right? Formal education will make you live, and self-education will make you a fortune.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I took that to heart.
Absolutely. I work with a lot of people, even in recovery today, in business, finances, what little I do know about finances, but I'm really careful and protect myself. And if the branches are bare, au contraire, I don't go there. I'm always looking at where people are at and helping them to go to the next level if they want to. And if they don't, I love them where they're at and move on down the road, because it's easy for them to take me down a wormhole and talk about the self-pity and what happened. So in my recovery process and the relationship I have with God today, it's like, Russell, how do you go from what you came from, which is a whole nother story, and to where you're at now? And I said, well, there's only really 3 things. What 3 things? Yeah. What you read, what you listen to, and who you associate with. If you don't input something new today, that you're going to get the same output tomorrow. And this next 30 days, I can tell you exactly what your life's going to look like. Well, how can you do that? Well, because of the definition of insanity. The only way to affect any change is today is day 1. Can't wait for things to be right tomorrow. You can't play ball with your son yesterday. I mean, it has to be today, right?
Listen, it's the point you're making is a lesson that I had to learn the hard way.
Me too.
I went through a period of time where I did not want to leave my house. Okay.
Really?
I mean, listen, after the GM situation and the dealership going up in a puff of smoke, I had lost all of my self-confidence, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And that's a really dangerous place for people to be, because that 6-inch space in between ears is either, the most fruitful soil that you'll ever plant an idea in anywhere, or it's a minefield, and you're blowing off toes left and right. And sometimes if you step on too many, what the
right.
result is, right? Yeah. So one of the lessons I learned when I started to have to travel more, I hated leaving my wife and kids, because as my kids got older, I was enjoying spending time with them. That was the one gift that the 08, 09 experience gave me, was I had been working literally 6 and 7 days a week for the first, 15 years of my career. And when my wife and I bought the dealership in 2002, 2003, I was working like literally 75 hours a week. And I missed a lot of incredible time with my family. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that again. So every time I hopped on a plane, I'd have to psych myself up a little bit, because I knew I'd be going away for a few days at a time, and I would miss my wife and my kids. But here's the commitment I made to myself. I said, I'm going to learn how to have fun converting everyday conversations into potential client opportunities. right? And not with the intent to pitch them on anything. I wanted to get really curious about people and see if there was an opportunity for me to pitch in and help in some way, shape, or form. And in some cases, without any fee for service, if you will. It was like just trying to build a relationship with somebody who really deserved the input at that time. It's a great Jim Rohn line. He says, learn to work with people that deserve it, not just those that say they need it.
That's right.
I use that as a really a core operating
Yeah.
principle. And it got my ass out of the house and onto a plane a lot more easily, as a result of that.
I believe in you. That was the catalyst.
4 words.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
It's amazing. Charity, I've been hogging all this thing and saying you just been going on and on and on. So, okay, here's a question.
Well, I could pivot you if you'd
Okay.
like. I'm
game, Charity.
I've done a little bit of research into, what you have available publicly. And I'm curious as to hear it from you. Can you explain a little bit about organizational culture and its health indicators?
Oh, wow.
Big one for you.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, Charity is awesome, man.
the brains. I love it.
Yeah, she is.
So it was something I identified, and I want to say again, a little bit of happenstance. When I had the chance to look back on the things that we had done right and the things that we had done wrong in our organization at the dealership, the thing that always stood out to me was that we had this amazing culture. And I recognized it when I went into stores that didn't have great culture. And I recognized that the stores that really succeeded at the highest level, you could walk in and you could feel different when you walked in. The way people interacted and engaged, not just with you as a prospect or a business partner or a client, but the way they interacted and engaged with each other, right? Interdepartmentally, how the sales and service departments work together. How did people speak to each other in front of me? And so I started to pay real attention to the values in organizations and what drove them every single day. And so I started to get a little bit more curious. I started to read a whole lot more, and I started to understand that it was a lot more complex than just, hey, let's do the right thing. It was how to create an environment where people feel supported. They feel like they have to be accountable to themselves and to their fellow coworkers and the organization that they serve. And so I started to identify certain hallmarks within each one of these successful operations that I went into. I had the good fortune of going outside of automotive too, and seeing how businesses operated outside of automotive. And so here are a couple of things that I noticed that made a difference, and it was consistent in every one of these organizations that achieved at very high levels. First and foremost, that they always had really high quality people. And when I say high quality people, I'm not talking about their talents or their skills. They were high quality, good people. They started there and then taught them the skills. They had structures in place that would help people develop the skills that they needed in order to succeed and achieve the kind of career goals and professional goals that they had coming into the organization. And so they spent a lot of time making sure they had the right person to start with, right type of person to start with, that matched the core values of their organization, and then invested a lot of resources in terms of time, mentoring, capital investment in them to give them the kind of skills that they needed in order for them to succeed. And the collective success of each one of those people within the organization, held together by really healthy communication between each individual and the departments themselves, helped the organization achieve the kind of success that they were looking for. Now, on the flip side, in organizations or dealerships where you don't see that, where it's cutthroat, where people don't care about each other, where there's a low level of accountability, there's a ton of apathy, which is an absolute culture killer.
Poison. Yeah.
Absolutely. Where people don't care because you don't show them that you care. You can walk in and you feel the 180-degree antithesis of what I just described. And so
it literally is 180 degrees too.
Yeah, it is. I think Peter Drucker said it, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And the point that he was making was that, you could be the smartest people in the world, but if you don't have that good core value and that heart to do the right thing and do business in a way that's going to serve as opposed to get served, It's going to be a tough road.
All about people again, right? People don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, right? It's cliche, but so true.
Cliche because it's true.
That's right.
Cliche because it's
Jerry,
true.
that was a great question.
Keep firing the fastballs, Jerry.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, come on, Jerry. I'm looking at a lot of them here. I just
I'll
like.
tell you what. I want to use a great analogy because our man Nico. Now, is he down for a nap?
No.
Oh no, he's blabbering away, so
Is he
that's
really?
why
Okay.
I'm muted. But
Well, you can let him blabber. I have no problem
Yeah.
whatsoever because one of the great analogies a buddy of mine, Vin, once shared with me, when you talk about working with people, right? And we have these very high expectations for new folks in our business, right? And this is where we see most of the turnover. See, it becomes this, this is an industry-wide epidemic. It becomes this, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? As the song goes. But the truth is that if you were to treat new people in your organization just like you would a new baby or a toddler when they're learning to walk, we'd have a lot more folks sticking around our business because, you know, when your son Nico walked for the first time, he probably took a few steps and then did what?
Well, I'm sure.
Fell down.
Yeah.
When he fell down, you didn't walk away with your hands up in the air and say, well, he's not a walker. Let's find the next one. You
Oh,
went
what a
back
great
and you
analogy,
kind of
man.
picked him up a little bit and you let him take a few more steps and you taught him how to walk. You were with him every step of the way. Okay. You didn't-
Protecting and guiding and yeah.
100%, that level of nurturing. Now, you can't nurture to the point where you create, a situation where people become, professional invalids. But you do have to invest the kind of quality time with people that deserve it.
That's right.
In the organization,
So you've been in automotive, obviously, a long time. What changes or evolutions stand out the most to you?
I think the single biggest impact at our business, as you could say in just about any business, is the technology aspect of it. And I think there's some incredible technology being introduced into the market currently. There's some great platforms out there right now. And I think our ability to properly leverage that technology so that it becomes a amplifier to the human element of our business will be what differentiates those who have from those who have not as we move forward, because you can go broke investing in all these platforms and utilizing 8% of their capacity. I think we've got to be really selective about what technology platforms we invest in, and then commit to them and demand that our strategic partners that are providing us with these platforms are as committed to us as they are to the dollars that we spend every month in the form of training and support.
I think there's a lot of hard lessons with that right now. And I tell people, because I have a technology company, is look, technology is used to accelerate momentum, not to create momentum.
Correct.
You how many different companies have you signed up for that fell to the wayside because you didn't understand it? You had no mechanisms in place. There wasn't enough automation. I do believe, and I heard this from Glenn Lundy, I'll use it, from 1922 to 2022, now we're in 1923 to 2023, the last 100 years, that how technology's evolved. In the next 5 years, it's going to evolve even faster than the last 100. So we need to, embrace it, obviously, but be really careful about it solves and does all these things for us, because there's it's a handicap.
You're right. I would say if I was going to get hyper specific about the one evolution, I'm looking at AI right now with a little bit of a jaundiced eye, because I see the inherent danger.
yes,
And I'm not talking about from a political sense at all. What I'm talking about is there's an inherent danger that we make the false assumption or the incorrect assumption that it's going to be this panacea and allow us to just start chopping headcount. The truth of the matter is that I don't believe that that technology is there yet. I do agree with Glenn that you're going to see a even further accelerated pace of change and technological advancement. But again, I don't think that it's ready for prime time right now. And I don't think it's going to be the solution in terms of replacing the human element of what we do. This is always going to be a people business.
Always. Listen, the technology, AI, chat, GPT, all those are really big topics right now, but I'm gonna go easy, go slow. It's if you think it's going to solve some huge thing, you're wrong and you're going to end up on the wrong side of it.
I couldn't agree with you more, Russell. It's a serious concern for me, and I'm not. Listen, I am no tech genius. So
I'm not either.
I'll prove it time and again. But the one thing I do know is that you can steamroll people, and when I say steamroll people, your associates and also your prospects and your clients real quickly with the wrong technology being applied in the wrong way.
Yep.
Okay, and so we've got to be very careful of that. It's going to be interesting because we're coming off of just completely unicorn years in this car business for the last 3 years. I feel like we're now at the point where we just got off the ride at Disney. We're coming through the gift shop.
I do. Yeah, I agree.
And they're going to start to take some of the money out of your pocket. You know what I mean? That's coming. Okay. There's always, listen, Jim Rohn said it, what goes up must come down. If you don't think that you're going to have contraction after expansion, then you're not paying attention, because it's the same cycle that we see repeated over and over again. What I would say is that if we can stay focused on understanding, and I'll talk about this on both the sales and the service drive side of things, if we can stay focused on this one thing, it can change everything in terms of the results that you get in your business. And that is this. That is that there's one thing that every single person that patronizes our dealerships has a fear of, and that is the fear of making a mistake. Okay, whether it's a mistake in the decision of which vehicle to purchase, which financing package or products to purchase, what repairs or maintenance that is recommended that they should or should not do.
Oh, yeah.
They have a fear that they're going to make a mistake. And so that's why our objective is always to gather and share all the information we can to help them make the very best decision possible for them. And here's how I know that. When I was in second grade, I had a teacher, her name was Mrs. DeMola. And Mrs. DeMola would start the class every day by having you finish a math problem on the blackboard. And the reward was you would get a root beer barrel. Okay. And so every kid in second grade will do just about anything for a piece of candy, right? So everybody jumping up and down like the Price is Right. And I'll never forget one morning, she had one of the kids come running up, smallest kid in the class. His name was Darren. Comes running down the aisle, grabs the chalk out of her hands, and the problem on the blackboard was 5 + 3. And he put the answer up there, 9. And before he turned around to hand the chalk back to Mrs. DeMola, what were all the kids in the classroom doing?
Yeah, they were laughing.
They're laughing at him.
Yeah.
Laughing at him because he made a mistake. Well, that poor kid slinked back to his chair. How often do you think he got up throughout the course of the rest of that year to answer a math problem?
Look, I was one of those kids. I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And we all have that same inherent fear of being ostracized or being made fun of or making a mistake. And so if we can be really smart about how we handle the folks coming through our doors and focus on helping them make the very best decision possible for them, everything changes for us. It becomes less transactional.
Absolutely. It's still people to people. And I think I believe there's a huge paradigm shift taking place right now. Mm-hmm. And there are things changing real fast. They've gotten fat and happy the last couple of years, and those things are starting to, everybody has. And we have to, so let me ask you this. Cherry had a good question here. What do people most misunderstand about you, Sandy? And if anything, is there any one thing that you think people misunderstand about you?
Misunderstand. That's a great, man. How long has she been living?
It's Charity. I'm telling you.
God.
Charity.
Unbelievable.
Well,
Yeah.
We have about 9 or 10 we don't have time for. We didn't even ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. So I don't know. It's tough for me to answer that question. I try to be as transparent as possible. I think people get this false impression that I have this incredible sense of confidence in myself, and it's not that at all. And it's funny because my wife and I have had this conversation in the past. And I say to her all the time, it's not confidence. I'm comfortable with myself. And I am comfortable in the fact that my objective is not to ever do anything but help other folks. And that sounds so altruistic and so, kumbaya and la-di-da, but the truth is that I really feel that way. Like I genuinely care about people. I know what it's like to be at the absolute bottom of the barrel and feel like the entire weight of the world is on your chest. And so I have this I think innate but also learned level of empathy for others, and I just want to help others.
Powerful trait.
I want other people to win. I love seeing people win. And so I think people sometimes see it as confidence. It's not confidence. It's really more so empathy and comfort in the fact that the only thing that I want to do is watch other folks win. Because I know that if I can help somebody else win, a piece of me wins every single time that happens.
Every single time. That is the secret. That is the secret.
That's it. There's a lot of folks out there right now, Russell, and you see them. Charity, I'm sure you do too. And I teach the 7 Pillars program from the heart, and it's something I do every day in my own business. And so it's really easy for me to teach the fundamentals, because I get very frustrated watching I call them the desk jumpers out there. And there's a few of them out there right now that are really on a super high in our business. And I have this sense that they're leading folks in the wrong direction, that it's really transactional. It's really me focused. It's really, let me pound my chest and I need to scream in people's faces and tell them they've got to be more like me. I think authenticity is a superpower that every single person has inside of them. And my goal is to always unlock the authentic, genuine, best version of the people that I'm working with, not demand that they become something different or more like me if they ever want to succeed. And I think that message is a dangerous one. And I want to be the person that's out there as the antidote, period.
I love that.
Yeah, I have one more question for you, Sandy, before we end. This hour has just flown by.
Yeah, it has, man. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, and this might be something you've already said, but but of course we don't know. But if there's one message that you'd like our audience to leave with today, what would it be?
Is to remember that authenticity is a superpower. That you have every single thing, and it sounds so cliche, but it's true. And I've had to learn it the hard way myself. Everything that you need, you have inside of you right now. The only question for each and every one of us is, how do I figure out how to unlock that potential that I have? What are the things that I need to do? What are the things I need to recognize in my own life and take advantage of that I haven't already done? And so you don't have to become somebody else. You don't have to be the person that's out there jumping up on desks or screaming into the mobile phone screen that you're the greatest thing in the world and come buy a car for me because I'm the best. There are a lot of other ways to approach this. And being your authentic self, I think, is the #1 opportunity for people to take advantage of.
What a great way to end. Sandy Cerami, you do you better than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. That was amazing, man.
Thank you, my
friend. That
friend.
really was. Thank all of you. How do people find you? How can they get in touch with you? Give them a couple of examples.
I try not to hide. I would lay in bed in 2010, 2011, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, praying that somebody would ring my phone and tell me that they needed some help. Right. So I don't hide. I am out in social media. I don't do the TikTok thing. I won't get into why, but I just don't.
I think I understand why, but go ahead.
Yeah. I'm LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and all my contact information is right in my profile. My phone number's there. If you call that number, you're going to get me. And I do answer the call when I'm available. If I'm not, I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But I'm a phone call, text, email, or instant message away. And if anybody's got a challenge out there and they don't know who to call or what to do, I want it to be my phone that rings or my inbox that dings. And I don't run the meter. If you want to just have a conversation and fight through a little bit of a challenge, I'd love to be the person that you picked up the phone and called. I'd love to help.
Well, I think everybody that's going to watch these shorts or the whole thing are going to realize the same thing that Charity and I did. And you're just an incredible human being that believes and pours into other people. And you figured out some basic blocking and tackling that just makes life worth living. And it's about other people and pouring into other people and helping other people. And that, like you said, with Zig Ziglar, you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. You can't focus on that though. You focus on the people being genuine because they're going to know if you're genuine. So, hey, he told you how to get a hold of him, like him, love him, share him, reach out to him, make comments about WTF. And that's What the FixedOPS. Sandy Cerami, serial entrepreneur and people extraordinaire. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Charity, keep the questions coming, please.
Isn't she amazing?
I will.
Yeah. I want you to give Nico a little fist bump for me, please.
I will.